Jolly Jolly from the Fat Quarter Shop, and today we're here with Carrie Nelson of Moda Fabrics, and they have a brand new product called Cake Mix Recipes. There's 4 recipes, and today she's going to show us recipe number 2. So Carrie, tell me about your cake mix recipe.
Each cake mix recipe, it comes in a pad with 45 sheets, or we call them recipe cards, and it's a triangle paper that comes with block options, setting options, but they're designed for using with 10-inch by 10-inch layer cake squares. It comes with blocks shown on the top. On the inside, there is basic baking techniques. You don't want to starch or size or pre-wash your layer cakes. It comes with some simple setting options, what your sizes would be, ways of setting the blocks, and then it is 45 sheets of a triangle paper, enough to be able to use with each of the 42 sheets in your layer cake, with a couple for test or if you make a mistake. You're going to start with 2 layer cake squares, right sides together. You're going to layer them and align the edges. You're going to take a sheet of your paper and you're going to pin it to the layer cake squares.
And you're going to put the light on the top, right?
The light on the top, yes. It is important to pin, to not drop the pin on the page. It is important to pin them, mostly because they can shift when you are stitching them. And some of them, while you have plenty of clearance, if you get it really off, you might not have enough. It's pinned. Do not pin on the dotted lines.
And what kind of thread are we going to be using?
I use Aurifil 50 weight cotton thread. I usually stitch with a medium tan color, but for today we're going to use this pretty red so that you can see the stitching.
And when you're stitching, we're going to lower our stitch length a little bit, right?
Yes, 12 to 14 stitches to an inch. Depending on your machine, it's probably a tick or 2 lower than your regular stitching length.
So let's go sew these.
All right. For stitching, you're going to start where it says start. There's a little star. There are little arrows and numbers that show a stitching direction. It's mostly to help you maintain a continuous stitching. The paper will still work if you don't follow it, but it does make it a little bit easier. And you are going to stitch on the line, the dotted line. It's important to stitch it as much as possible on the exact line, but it's okay if it's not, if you go a little inside or outside. When you're making your turns, if you get a little bit past, or you have a little thread extra, anything like that, it's okay, because that's going to be in your seam. And it's probably going to be cut off when you're trimming the paper apart.
So give me your best cutting instructions.
All right, you're going to start by cutting 3 of the sides. You're going to trim the outside edge. Actually, you're going to cut all 4, but you're going to have a little bit more trimming to do after. I do not use a rotary mat or a rotating rotary mat. I do use a rotary mat. And the biggest thing is to get the outside first. You want to cut it so that you are cutting totally on the thin, solid line.
Okay, push it up a little.
And then you are going to cut one of these long sections. Whoops. And try not to do that with the blade. And then go ahead and cut this section, because these are your small half triangle squares. These 2 sides will still need to be trimmed, so I like to go ahead and do them now just to get them out of the way. You can make that long diagonal cut across the center first, but I find this process a little bit easier. I'm less likely to cut in the wrong place. And these go quickly, these are fast. For the center seam line, you want to be accurate, but it is less important that it be exactly on the line because you've already got your seam stitched. Whoops. And then you've got 2 more to do. Thank you. I usually have stuff piled up everywhere. It's nice to have somebody pulling it out of the way. Thank you very much. And there you go. 10 half triangle squares that will finish at 2 1/4 inches and 2 that will finish at 4 1/2 inches, enough to make 2 blocks.
And now we're moving on to pressing.
The next thing we're going to do is press the half triangle squares. One of the reasons why you're going to have your light fabric on the top next to the paper is so that you can press it with the seam towards the dark side before taking the paper off. For some sizes, it's not as important whether you take the paper off before or after, but for larger half square triangles, it helps you maintain some stability that it keeps it from distorting when you're pressing. There's one, and here is the small size, and yes, sometimes getting it to separate, you'll use your fingernails. You can hit it with a shot of steam when it's done. And there you have your 2 sizes of half triangle squares. The next thing you're going to do is tear the paper. The easiest way to do it is to put your fingernail right on the seam line and just tear the paper up. Use your nail to pull the seam paper away. And there you go. Now when you're all done, you're going to want to trim your little corners.
So Carrie, show me your block possibilities.
There are a lot, but here are a few just to get you started.
Has 6 block possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about this quilt.
This is an old-fashioned T-square block, and this is sort of the block and that kind of generated the idea for the paper. All it is block number 3, where the fabrics are all on the center to make the T, and then I use 2 different backgrounds, which is easy to do. 21 grids that are sewn with one of the backgrounds and 21 with the darker. And then the placement is just kind of random. They're in rows, sort of.
Yeah, I love that it's just totally just scrappy and the placement is just, you know, whatever. And that's what I love about these papers is you can, there's so many possibilities that it's just completely endless. Make sure to check out all of Carrie's other cake mix recipe videos on the Fat Quarter Shop channel. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.